Hello, everyone. It is I, the Fable of Fables, your new best friend. I'm trying something a little different. Lately, I've been recording a lot of Super Robot Wars and Transformers to add a little bit of variety, and also Gundam to add a little bit of variety, because variety is the spice of life, after all. I'm thinking of record. Jesus. This time, I'm reacting to influential. From the Guard history is whatever. The iconic Imperial Guard regiments, part one. Let's go.
Hi,
I can't
friends. The
talk.
Guard is my absolute favorite faction in all of 40k, obviously. I just really love the idea of humanity standing up against and overcoming any challenges the universe throws at them. Be it horrific aliens or literal hellspawns, the Guard are able to face foes far, far more mighty than themselves. And another cool aspect of the Guard are the diverse regiments.
Oh
Not only
yeah.
do these look super cool, but they also strengthen the theme of the Guard. Each regiment has a myriad of influences, both fictional and real, and as a whole, the Guard really represent all the cultures of humanity coming together to kick some alien ass. I just think that the Guard's constant plight against superior foes and overwhelming odds is so relatable to the human condition, and really the Guard represent us. The Space Marines might be the poster boys of 40k, but the Guard is you and me. And all that Independence Day inspirational human stuff was to segue into today's topic. I thought it'd be really interesting to look into the influences of some of the most iconic Guard regiments. I'll be looking into the lore and aesthetic of a few Guardsmen and then present some of the influences I was able to find, both historical and from pop culture and fiction.
Ooh, all right,
Do
let's
keep in
go.
mind I'm not a historian, but I will try my best to keep all of my information factual, and let's get into it. So first off, let's start with the internet's favorite Guard regiment, the Death Corps of Krieg. The
Oh
Death
yeah.
Corps are masters of siege tactics and attrition warfare. They often fight in trenches and use their overwhelming numbers in siege regiments to destroy enemy defenses at all costs. Additionally, they make heavy use of artillery barrages and tank regiments. They're excellent warriors, and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, Guard regiment in the entire galaxy. Death Corps are defined by their extreme willingness to sacrifice themselves for the cause. And this does not mean that they're suicidal. With the trench warfare angle and their
Eh,
general
it's
aesthetic, the Krieg are
questionable.
heavily inspired by World War One.
Oh yeah.
What? Many battles of the First World War were miserable battles of attrition where soldiers would slowly advance through battlefields and utilize vast trenches for defense. Furthermore, on the Western Front of World War I, there's the idea of the cult of offensive, in which many military strategists believe that an overwhelming offense would be able to overtake any defense. This idea led to the huge casualty rates of World War I and are
Jesus.
very reminiscent of the Krieg combat doctrines. Mass infantry assaults with huge casualties are also infamously reminiscent of the Russian war tactics. Also, the silly ass shovel memes come from how in World War I, soldiers would use melee weapons to fight charging opponents, including trench clubs, bayonets, and yes, shovels. However, this doesn't mean that they're all using shovels as their primary weapon. That's just ridiculous. And then culturally, the Krieg are a bunch of
That's the problem. They should be using all the shovels, like nothing but shovels. Shovels are great. Seriously, guys, like okay, so it's a bit silly to be honest, but a battle shovel, like literally a combat shovel, can be really useful, and not many of your opponents would actually see it coming. I'm not saying use it all the time, but it's a thought. It's something you should think about. Maybe question mark.
antisocial, vat grown freaks who like to hide their face. So, in that regard, I guess it would be based on me.
Oh dear.
Oh, I made
Oh.
myself sad. There's also the
Aw,
nuclear apocalypse thing going
I
on for
love the
them. Cold
Futurama
War anxieties
reference.
of a nuclear holocaust were fully realized on the great world of Krieg, and they presently live in underground bunkers and stuff. And I know there's a lot of fiction about underground nuclear bunkers, but I just watched the show and I've been on a bit of a Fallout kick, so I'm gonna say that's what influenced the Kriegers. Either that or Hans Moleman, king of the mole people. The culture of atonement is also a somewhat common theme in fiction, where characters feel the need to atone for their sins of their ancestors or religiously devote themselves to a cause. Then, on an aesthetic level, Kriegers have many elements of different World War armies. Their combat uniform is basically one to one with French soldiers, and then their helmets are German style helms. Then, finally, to me, their gas mask looks most similar to the British small box respirator due to the, well, small box. It can also be inspired by the German GM-24 mask from World War II. In
Hmm.
addition to their uniforms, the Krieg weapons and vehicles also have a more antiquated aesthetic than most other regiments. For example, the Lucius pattern lasgun has a rifle grip that's unlike the more common pistol grips of 40k guns. And it's also said to have a lower rate of fire, making it resemble older rifles even more. All right, next up, bust out the Fortunate Son because we're going to the jungles, baby. The Catachan Jungle Fighters are a formidable guard regiment that hail from the jungle death world
Oh
of Catachan.
lord.
The Jungle Fighters are masters of jungle warfare, obviously, and excel in guerrilla strikes and
The funny thing is about the Katachan fighters is they're literally based off action heroes from like the 80s and 90s, I believe. So like Rambo, freaking the Predator characters, things like that. It's
asymmetric warfare.
hilarious.
The Catachan are stone cold badass muscle men who love bandanas and knives. They're
Oh yeah.
excellent warriors and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, guard regiment in the entire galaxy. Now, the obvious influence of Catachan are 80s action heroes mixed with some Vietnam War elements. The most iconic Catachan model is literally a mix of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Kurt Russell. Their aesthetic heavily resembles the characters from movies like Predator, Rambo, and even
Mm-hmm.
Aliens. And then the attitude and personality of Catachan are also reminiscent of action movies. The Catachan are often big dicking each other, trying to prove who's the most badass. And this is a lot like in the movies and even real life, where
The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure he's gonna talk about it, but like the fact is, to my understanding on Katachan, you have to be extremely tough and and brave and probably maybe a little bit suicidal as well because like if not, you're gonna die. You're literally gonna friggin' die in Katachan because everything's out to eat you. The plants are out to eat you. The animals will eat you. The animals will eat the plants that are trying to eat you. It's freaking everything is horrifying in Katachan.
stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone would compete with each other to see whose muscles could be the most epically roided. And then another trope in some of these movies is like a nerdy outsider guy who tags along with the team and is generally disrespected and disliked. Catachan often disrespect authorities and outsiders, so much so that when the crew eat the Catachan, they start disrespecting their leaders and wearing bandanas, which is
Yeah,
pretty funny and kind of insane. Another way that movie tropes and history
it's
influence the
funny.
Catachan is on the planet of Catachan itself. In adventure movies and action movies, a hostile, exotic land is a very common place for adventurers to go. Things like Skull Island and Lost World feature exotic fauna and flora that are very hostile and will probably eat you.
Oh
And
yeah.
this has very likely inspired the insane residents of Catachan. This trope was born because jungles in real life are very dangerous and often relatively unexplored. Not only are there the natural dangers, but during conflicts like the Vietnam War, combatants familiar with the jungles would set many traps and ambushes. And like the memes say, the trees are speaking Vietnamese, and on Catachan, the trees are speaking murderese because, they'll murder and eat you. Tactically speaking, the Catachan often employ guerrilla stealth strikes. They like laying traps and they also favor close combat. The jungle guerrilla fighting style and trap making is very similar to Viet Congs who opposed the Americans in the Vietnam War. The Viet Congs had tunnel systems, booby traps, and were experts in navigating the jungles. However, the Catachan also had some strategies that aligned with Americans in the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, Americans heavily utilized bombing runs, napalm strikes, and ground teams to kill the North Vietnamese. Likewise, the Catachan also used mechanized supports and flamers to clear out jungles and then deploy infantry squads to eradicate enemies. So now finally, let's talk about my favorite regiment, the Cadian Shock Troopers. They're an elite guard regiment that is very professional and often seen as a template for other regiments to aspire to. They utilize combined arms tactics and are a very
Oh
versatile
dude, the
regiment.
Cadians are great. Cadians literally the Cadian freaking Cadia broke. The planet broke before the Cadians did. If that's not saying how impossible, how amazing these dudes are, I don't know what is. Like legitimately.
Fighting very well on nearly every war front. They're excellent warriors, and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, guard regiment in the entire galaxy. Cadians are
Seriously.
mostly a mix of North American soldiers, both Canadian and United States, with some other flavorings mixed in. A big inspiration for the Cadian shock troopers is the Canadian shock troopers. Wait, wait a minute. Contrary to the syrup drinking, friendly hockey personas that the Canadians have today, the Canadians of the World Wars were actually pretty scary and very
Oh yeah.
effective soldiers. One
So here's the thing. To those of you that don't know, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna kind of as well as tell us, there's a reason the Geneva Convention has so many rules. During World War One, Canada is the reason we have so many things. I'm not kidding. Canada literally said, "I'm gonna stop being nice," and the Canadian soldiers did a lot of war crimes. Look it up, or ask Mac, but look it up. Canada really said, I'm about to do so many war crimes. I will be known and I'll be wanted in so many lands. It's oh my lord.
A notable tactic they employed in the First World War was utilizing the aforementioned shock troops. In the time of trench warfare, their shock troops used combined arms tactics to flank and break enemy defenses. Cadians often utilize shock tactics, combined arms doctrines, and other modern military strategies. Along with the combined arms approach, Cadians are also trained in smaller squad formations, guerrilla warfare, and urban combat.
I
This is
like how he has
reminiscent
a
of modern
gorilla.
American doctrines as well as other contemporary militaries. The professional military theme is also similar to Americans, as our military is very well funded and equipped for squad combat on an infantry level. Another cultural influence for the Cadians may be Spartan legends and stories. Although historians debate if Spartans were actually the elite warrior society that people perceive them as, the stories and general perception of Spartans is that of a meritocratic warrior society. Cadians have clear parallels to this archetype, as most Acadian society is militarized, Cadian children are trained before they could even read, and moving up in Cadian leadership is mostly merit-based. Additionally, the Cadians holding the line at the Cadian Gate is very reminiscent of the legendary 300 holding the line at the Battle of Thermopylae. So the Cadians are basically the love child of the two northmost American countries, who was then kidnapped and raised in Sparta. No wonder they're my favorite. Then, on an aesthetic level, the Cadians really embody the generic sci-fi marine look. They look quite similar to some iconic sci-fi troopers of the 80s and
Oh yeah, they
2000s-ish.
do.
They bear similarities to colonial marines from Aliens, movie Starship Trooper, Mobile Infantry, and Marines from Halo. I'm sure there's more, but those were the ones I found most significant. I personally think that they look most similar to the Halo Marines, with the blocky armor and large pauldrons. However, many people say that they look most like Starship Troopers. And then branching off of that, Cadians also resemble these troops' personalities to a degree. Cadians are often said to have a gallows humor about them. This is similar to the Marines in those movies and games I mentioned, where they'll often banter with each other or make jokes about how they're all gonna die. Cadian.
To be completely honest, when you're in like situations like this, gallows humor does wonders. It kind of probably helps morale or makes probably morale worse, but hey, don't knock it till you try it, honestly.
More like K dying, am I right? Yeah, you can shoot me now? And then, if you had any doubts about Cadians being Space Americans, I just have two things to
Space
say.
Americans,
Number one, the
bro.
Cadians basically had a Space 911 pulled on them. Cadia stands is essentially the guard
Oh my
equivalent of
lord.
Never Forget. And then two, the Cadians have a great love for their homeworld, and they see themselves as the best of the best, better than anybody else. Totally proving that they're Space Americans. And with that, let's close it off. If you guys like this video, I'd love to make it into a series. It was really interesting to research both the fictional and real-life historical influences of these three regiments. Unfortunately, I was only able to cover the three most popular regiments. However, I would love to do a similar deep dive into the Vostroyans or Steel Legions or whatever. And so, let's do that stupid YouTuber thing and say, oh, if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'll continue the series. Secret, I'll probably continue the series eventually anyways. I love the Guard, and I absolutely love all the regiments. I really wish GW would bring back the regiment models. Those were some of my
Oh
favorites
yeah,
of
that
all
seems
time.
fun.
And with that, please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite Guard regiment is and why. Tell me if I missed any other influences and why I'm a silly goose. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing my videos to all your besties. Thanks.
Alright guys, thank you for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I know I did. I learned something kind of interesting. It was fun talking about random history facts that I am aware of. If you guys want me to react to the influences for the Guards Part 2, do let me know. I'd be more than happy to. Or I probably will. I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably gonna do it like he did. Yeah. Anyway, just to kind of get out of the mindset of sticking to Transformers and stuff. Not that I'm not having fun, don't get me wrong. It's just I don't want to get burnt out again. I'll be completely honest. Well, I'm gonna cry a little bit. Oh my god, Comet would probably love this stupid thing. I'll send this to him. Anyway, yeah, you guys like that? I'll see you all later. Make sure to check out this lovely man. He does a lot of funny work. Make sure to subscribe to him. All right? Probably can't see it. I'll leave a link in the description. You know what I mean? All right, later, guys. Take care. Stay safe. Drink plenty of water.